Hello, and welcome back to Visiting Dugout, a Fans First Sports Network production. You know me, I'm Chrystal O'Keefe. Today, my special guest is Tavi, on to chat about the Dodgers. You might know her, you might follow her, but please feel free to introduce yourself a little.
Yeah, my legal name is Lauren, but most folks know me as Tavi. I am a Dodger fan. I'm a longtime baseball fan. I work for the Dodgers as a tour guide, and yeah, generally like to talk about baseball. My other job is I work in the film industry as a baseball consultant. So I know a lot about historical equipment and old school rules of the 1800s and things like that. Um, Not always great on modern stats, but we'll get through it. Don't worry. And I always have to say they don't always listen to me. So if you see something wrong in the movie that I worked on, you can give them the best advice, but they're still going to do what they're going to do, right? That's the plight of all film folk, right?
I did just see, was it the Detroiters that you worked on? I saw like a post recently.
Oh, no, I didn't work on the Detroiters, but I did work with Sam from the Detroiters.
Okay.
Okay, way back in the day, I worked for cracked.com,
Uh-huh.
which was like this height of like their sketch back in like the mid like teens and aughts and stuff like that. And we did a lot of times what we do when we worked for Cracked, we would do like week long like bunches of skits, and one of like the more infamous ones was Desert Week, where we went up to like Palm Springs adjacent, like it wasn't Palm Springs, it was like outside of Palm Springs, and we just did like a week of shorts, and it was hot, and it was not quite miserable, but like it was just dry. And Sam was there, and he was an absolute delight. um he was one of my favorite kind of guest people we've had through. I really enjoyed working for Cracked. All of those folks were really fun and engaging, and but I was kind of part of their like roster of prop and set design people, and so I work every 4 or 5 shoots with them and stuff like that. So it was really fun. But no, Sam was a delight. I wish I'd worked on Detroiters. That show is hilarious. But yeah, we just did a week like eons ago. But every time I see him in something, I just feel so happy because he's such a good guy and was just like we had a lot of downtime on that set because it was we had a lot of issues with who knows what. That's just what film sets do.
Yeah.
And so we had a lot of time to chat a lot of times, and he was just a good human being, and I'm so happy that he is as successful as he is. And yeah, it's always good when good people succeed, right?
Yes, I love him. I love Tim Robinson. But on the podcast right before this, I had Britt on to talk about the Giants since
Mhm.
White Sox faced them first. And Britt and I are both big Adley Rutschman fans just in general. And he is a big I think you should leave fan. And so we ended our show just talking about those ridiculous shows and how Tim needs to come out with some new content for poor little Adley at home injured. So
Yeah,
I saw that too, and I was like, I've got to bring this up because
yeah,
Sam
yeah.
is hysterical.
He was a delight.
Well, good. So, on to maybe not as delightful things as we hinted at before we started recording. What's new with the Dodgers?
Our pitching staff almost completely. No, I'm just kidding. I will say this. So there have been some updates. Glasnow is rehabbing in OKC. His most recent was this past Sunday. We're recording on this on the 25th, so he may have another start in between. But he did 2 scoreless, hitless innings, but he had 3 walks, so 1K. So that's looking good. I'm happy to see him throwing off a mound. Snell is throwing off a mound. I think he's doing anywhere from 25 to 30 pitches. We see him around the stadium quite a bit. Roki has started his throwing program. He's playing catch. Don't know if there's a timeline for him or not, but the last time I was at the stadium, he was out doing his work, doing his reps and stuff like that. So he's coming back. That being said, we've only seen 2 relievers, or have not seen for our 40 man. There's only 2 relievers we haven't seen, and that was Nick Frasso who we may or may not see, and then Zach Penrod, who we picked up like 2 days ago. So like, yeah, it's been a challenge. That being said, we have the second best record in baseball. And so it's kind of amazing to see what's going on. Now we have had some pitchers come back. Sheehan has done some work for us. 6 Ks in a 4 outing against the Padres, which is not easy. 4 innings outing against the Padres. Kershaw's come back. His first game was not great. He has looked sharper and sharper and sharper every time. So that's good news. Honestly, at this point, I think Kershaw could like stand on the mound and kick a ball towards home plate and the fans would be thrilled to have him back. So like, he's entering his 18th season, and the last outing he had was it's starting to look a little bit more like vintage Kershaw. I don't know he'll ever get to vintage Kershaw. No one can do vintage Kershaw quite like it happened, but he's getting better and better. The other thing is Tanner Scott, who for a while felt like a liability, is getting sharper and sharper. He's had a 1.3, maybe 1.2 ERA in his last 7 outings. So that's looking better and better. It's a little bit not quite so much a clinch when he comes up. He's been working through some things, and he's been looking really, really great. That being said, we have 6 starting pitchers on the IL. That does include Glasnow and Snell. Tony Gonsolin, who we got back for a little while, just went back on the 60-day. I don't know if there's a timeline for him. If there is, I haven't seen anything about it. Gratterall is rehabbing. Trinan is rehabbing. Luis Garcia is rehabbing in Rancho. He had a 9-pitch inning, I think, Sunday, and only one of those pitches was a ball. So that's looking good. Trinan slated to return after the All-Star break. I think Gratterall is potential to return after the All-Star break. So as desperate and as desolate as it looks, we're still leading the NL, and we have a lot of people potentially coming back. So, but that's kind of the Dodgers. People are like, why do the Dodgers have so many injuries all the time? We go after those high risk reward, high, possibility of injury candidates. I mean, no one thought Glasnow was going to throw 200 innings for any team, let alone the Dodgers. But when we have him, we hope to, utilize him and have him good. But that's just kind of the name of the game. And luckily with our payroll, we have a little bit of flexibility to sign those high risk, high reward guys. And sometimes it really, really works out and it clicks. And sometimes everybody stubs their toe at the same time, that kind of thing.
Yeah, the Dodgers as a whole seem to have some pretty wild luck. And the White Sox were very similar at the start of the season. During spring training, 6 pitchers went down for Tommy John. Not all starters, but I mean, still that's 6 pitchers that you no longer can count on.
Right.
And now Davis Martin has been very recently injured, and it's like a day-to-day who is going to be playing.
Yeah.
Yesterday was a bullpen game where we had, one guy go for an inning and another guy go for a couple innings. And it's a disaster because it seems like every 2 days it's like a bullpen game at this point. So,
yeah. I mean, we've only had 22 quality starts this year.
Oh, yeah.
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 Now I do want to talk about 2 guys who, I think are kind of interesting and up and coming. They were both just happened to be drafted in 2021. Ben Casparius has been just like kind of a bulk innings guy. Lately, I think they're converting him into starter is kind of what I've heard. He always goes at least 2, it feels like. I mean, he'll have a couple 1 inning outings, but he's pitched in 24 games for us. He started 2 of them. He went 4 innings against the Padres. He did 5 innings against the Nationals after Ohtani, which Ohtani is its own separate conversation we can have. But I think they're kind of stretching him out to be a starter, and he's really kind of earned that. He's been pretty great. He does have I think around a 3.3-ish ERA. But he's really just kind of like stepped into a role and stepped up and has been great. I think Justin Wroblewski is doing a similar thing. He hasn't been in quite as many games, but he takes on bulk roles. He usually does 4 to 5 innings. He doesn't necessarily start, but he tends to like come in the second, or the third, and just pitch a big chunk of innings. And that's, I think they're kind of, he's the middle innings guy. May do him as a starter, may not. I don't know. I kind of poked around and tried to see if anybody had said anything about that yet, but it hasn't really been noticed. He's only played about 6 games with us. But what I've seen has been really fun. He has thrown as many as 6 different pitch types in a game, which is very exciting. And I think he's, someone going forward that we're going to be looking at a lot. I did want to bring up Sheehan came back and did really well. He was optioned back again. But yeah, it's made for some pretty wild games. I'll say that. And I will say, I think our bullpen ERA has suffered, last season, especially, we talked about our bullpen dogs. They were so lights out for us. They're getting a lot more work this year. Casparius and Wroblewski especially. And, I think we're still winning games. So part of that is because our bats have been pretty great. We have some stars who are slumping right now, but our, down the line has really stepped up quite a bit. Max Muncy got his glasses. We're very excited about that.
It's like when Ronaldo Lopez finally got LASIK surgery and could see again.
Yeah. But I will say this about Muncy is he puts in the work. Like he's taking grounders, he's working on throws, like he's always trying to get better. He was kind of slotted to be our first baseman or slugging first baseman until Freddie Freeman came available, and he was like, okay, well, I guess I'll play third. And then, he had an injury last year, but like he puts in the work, and he does have an error every now and then, but he still, especially with the glasses, has been making some like really big strides at third. And it's really been fun to watch him because he will work. Like he's, and I mean this in the absolute nicest way. He is a stubborn ass. And so he, in the donkey sense of the word, right? Like he is going to work. He's going to work. Yeah. So it's been great to see him, pick up and start slugging again. He's America's slugger. You want to see him slug.
So, I know we'll talk about Ohtani a lot. I'm sure this is a Dodgers episode, but do you feel like his kind of return to pitching was a little rushed because of kind of the lack of pitching depth you've got right now, or do you think he was ready to go?
I think he was ready to go. I think the reason why it became a surprise, like they sprung it on people, was so that it wouldn't be a madhouse at the stadium. Right. We found out, I as an employee found out the same time pretty much everyone did. Now higher ups knew, of course, also, but like the vast majority of like the stadium workers, we all found out at the same time. Literally, I was leaving the game the day before and I saw the text and I was just like, oh my gosh. Some people tried to price gouge. Like, yeah. I think some people tried to put up tickets for like $1,300 or something stupid like that. And if you had announced that a week beforehand, people would have had to pay those prices if they wanted to go. That being said, I logged into like SeatGeek right before the game, and you could find $40 tickets for that game. I think it was a surprise to everyone, and they kept it under wraps to prevent. It gets so nuts at the stadium sometimes when there's something Ohtani related. I mean, I think you all probably saw on the news the bobblehead. I will say, like, it's not like a fever rush. It doesn't have it doesn't feel crazy. It's just a lot of people, a lot of interest and stuff like that. Had they announced, hey, Shohei's going to pitch in a week, it absolutely would have been an even bigger circus and even bigger stuff. So no, I don't think anyone could rush Ohtani back.
Yeah.
Now I'm sure he wants to be back. He wants the pressure to be back. The team is more than willing to have him back, but he is a long-term investment for the Dodgers. They're not going to do anything that puts him at risk. I think they were being coy with it for exactly those reasons. They didn't want to make it an absolute madhouse.
He is Major League Baseball's Taylor Swift.
Yeah. And you see that in the stadium. You absolutely see that in the stadium. Being a tour guide, we have Japanese guests. Even before Ohtani was announced, we had people coming to the stadium anyway, but especially after, we hired a lot more Japanese language guides. Those tours fill up quickly. We'll have Japanese guests on the English speaking tours, and sometimes it gets a little nuts, but for the most part, like, everyone's just so excited to be there and so excited to see what's going on. The most amazing thing to me, the day that Ohtani pitched for the first time, he only went one inning too.
Yeah.
So I really hope no one paid the $12,000 price. But I was talking to a couple who had come from Okinawa. Like, this was just like their yearly vacation. They wanted to see the Dodgers. They were Ohtani fans, and they just happened to fly all the way from Japan and just be there for that day. And they were so excited. And so I was really excited for those people. I was really excited for people who, I think we went from like 37,000 tickets to a sellout pretty much overnight. So there were a lot of like regular seat tickets and stuff like that. So, I mean, if you try to price gouge, screw you, but
yeah,
you didn't have to pay those ticket prices to get in. And again, he only pitched one inning. So, he's so far, he did give up an earned run, but let's be honest, Manny Machado swung, and I will die on that hill.
It's Manny, unfortunately.
To be fair to the umpires, there is no definition of what a swing is, and I guarantee you no one wants a definition for a swing more than the umpires. So no shade to them, but he's won.
Yeah, I get that. Like, again, as someone who tried so desperately to get Eras Tour tickets and failed because of price gouging, and then as someone who would love to see the Fever and Sky play as a WNBA person, there's, I've been priced out, and that's okay. Yeah. I can only imagine what Ohtani's return would have actually brought.
Yeah, I will say, so I just because I'm there a lot, and I do, it is because of, we can talk a little bit later, but we're the tour guides are seeking their first union contract. We're paying a lot of attention to what ticket sales, our ticket sales, but also the team ticket sales and stuff like that. So I check in ahead of games, and except for on like the really big giveaway nights, you can get like a $50 ticket. It's not, it's not going to be close. I sat in the Dugout Club on Jackie Robinson Day for around $250 all in. So like, you can still get deals. I won't talk about the beer prices or anything like that, but I'm not a drinker anyway. But like, you can still find a ticket. And if you do season tickets, I don't know as much about that, but you can do like quarter packs. I know a lot of people do quarter packs and things like that. So you don't have to pay for the whole season. You pay for, 20 games or something like that. But yeah, it's definitely, I mean, we were drawing the most attendance before Ohtani. We may hit the 4 million mark this year. We kind of thought we might last year. And I think if you add in postseason games, we went over 4 million, but regular season, we may hit regular season. I haven't counted how many sellouts we had. We had 19 last year. It feels like we've had more than half that already. So, yeah, we'll see. We'll see at the end of the year. It's definitely been a challenge on our staff, but, a welcome one in most cases. So
for sure. So let's go back a little bit to the off season. Do you feel like the Dodgers successfully added what was really needed, or were there some spots that they really could have still used someone in, their rotation or just their lineup or anywhere in general? Yeah. Do you feel like they kind of hit the mark or missed the mark a little?
I mean, I think they hit the mark as far as what they were expecting to get. We already talked a little bit how Tanner Scott didn't, have the greatest start, but he's sharp again. Roki, I I did not expect to have an impact immediately. If you look at Yamamoto, he was like, it's a different ball. Like, people forget it is a different ball. It's a different weight. It's a different size. And it's like, well, it's not that big of a difference. It is when you're that fine-tuned. I didn't expect Roki to go on the injured list, but I wasn't surprised. And I think it's just a little bit of an adjustment. In a way, and I don't know, this isn't necessarily a criticism, and this is 100% hindsight. I do maybe wish he would have done AAA like Haesung Kim did. Haesung Kim's, who's from Korea, spent some, I think about 100 games in AAA, came up and has been great for us. He's still got some, I think some speed bumps to kind of smooth out, but nothing big. And part of it is, we saw a little bit of a bobble between him and Conforto a couple of games ago. English is not his first language, and communication is hard. Dodger Stadium is so loud. I think he's settling in beautifully, absolutely beautifully. And, speed bumps are going to come no matter what. It's a new, even if you spoke the same language perfectly 100%, a new team is still going to have kinks, right, to work out with. And he is just fantastic. Everybody loves him in the clubhouse. He's starting to mash, both sides of the plate a little bit more, and we're very thrilled. So he was a great addition. Roki, I think, is going to be fantastic. He's another person they're thinking long-term for, right? They're not going to rush him through this right now. Again, we are still leading the National League. It's not, and while we seem desperate for pitching, we are a little desperate for pitching. It's not going to be at the cost of the next, 5 to 8 years. And I think they're taking their time with Roki, and that's, I'm fine with it. Do I want to see him come up and dominate? Absolutely. Did I expect it? Maybe not. The stuff he has is great, and once he's back in peak, he's also, I will say this, he seems to be putting on a little bit more weight in a good way. When I saw him working a while ago, I was like, wait, is that him? He doesn't look quite so string bean. And I think that's going to help too. I don't think they're going to try and rush him back when we're doing okay. Maybe not stellar, but we're doing okay. The only piece that I think a lot of people are a little bit scratching their heads over is Michael Conforto. I don't think anyone understands Conforto's struggles like Conforto does. It's not a surprise to any, I'm not saying anything shocking here. That being said, he just homered at Coors Field last night, his Coors Field. And I think a lot of fans have the sentiment of, well, if he's going to hit 170, why didn't we keep Chris Taylor? Chris Taylor went to the Angels. He's on the IL now, but so I think that's kind of the only question mark. Dave Roberts, if he has one flaw, and I think this is such a minor flaw, I think he trusts people too much sometimes. I think he always expects they're going to do their best, and a lot of time he gets it. That is how we have the record we have. But he has the luxury of being able to extend the runway for a lot of players because of the team and the lineup he has. And, even Dave Roberts, somebody pointed it out. It was starting to insist upon rest and things like that. And that's kind of Dave talk for sit down, but I think he's kind of the only, when we signed him, I was like, okay, why? And I think I wouldn't necessarily call it a mistake because he's been a great baseball player in the past. He's shown signs of really good, hits now and then. It's just not consistent. But I guarantee you there's no one in the world who wants that consistency more than he does. So I don't know that he stays around after the trade deadline. But I know that the Dodgers are going to give him every opportunity to try and improve. And, maybe it's a bad fit. Maybe he's just, I don't know what's going on there. But I think Haesung Kim is in a position to where we can rearrange the outfield to maybe not have him be in as much.
Yeah, I get that. So with all of that, do you feel, and again, you guys are in first place, I don't really see a timeline where the Dodgers are not making it to the offseason unless like a meteor lands in Dodger Stadium. Like I
Stranger
don't,
things have happened in the past 2 weeks.
but do you feel really good with where the team is at making it to postseason, maybe going on another really good run?
I think so. I will say the bottom half of the lineup has really stepped up. The top half of the lineup is struggling. Mookie is, he had a good night last night, and when reporters were asking about it, he was like, "Just enjoy the good night. The future will take care of itself." So I know he's frustrated with his performance. That being said, like he still has like a 2.7 more, and he's still a second place at shortstop in the All-Star voting. And so like he moved positions. He left his Gold Glove position and moved positions. And, he's going to figure it out. He's Mookie Betts.
Yeah.
And again, no one is more looking forward to that than him. Freddie is banged up. He re-injured his ankle in the shower. Poor guy. Mookie stubbed his toe. I don't know how much that's still affecting him, and I don't remember if it was a break or not, but it was enough to where he couldn't put on shoes. That might still be affecting him. I know even after an injury is healed, sometimes your body still moves in a way to protect the injured part, whether or not it hurts. That might be affecting his Mookie swing. Freddie, I think he puts in so much work just to be on the field. He's doing, at least an hour and a half therapy before. He does stuff after. We've seen, him get pulled quite a few times to get some rest. I know that kills him because he wants to be on the field all the time and constantly. But again, it's the Dodgers wanting to play the long game and keep him healthy because my goodness, was he valuable in the postseason, even as banged up as he was. And, you never want your players playing. You don't want anyone to be in pain. And it seems like that might be kind of what Freddie's life is right now. And, obviously it's not enough to stop him from playing, but you want your players healthy. And so I think, I don't know. I obviously don't make those decisions, but I wouldn't mind seeing him get more rest. That being said, he probably does not want to do that.
Yeah.
He wants to be on the game every day. He wants to contribute, and I can't fault him for that either.
And we just saw this with basketball on the biggest stage for the finals. You had Tyrese Halliburton playing injured.
Yeah.
He didn't want to not be in game 7, and I can't fault him for that. If I was in his position, I would want to be in game 7 too, but you play on an injury and you just make that injury a million times worse, and then it affects everything around you. And as we can see, they didn't win.
Right.
And that's probably a big reason. So I can't fault these players, but gosh, the mom in me is always just like, no, please get more rest.
So I may be jumping ahead a little bit, but Freddie's going to be an all-star. He just is.
Yeah.
He's still stellar this year. Even like his low, he's having a slump, and he's still, I think, hitting over 300. So he's a phenomenal player. I want him to be an all-star. I want him to experience all-star. Boy, I'd kind of be okay if he stepped back from the all-star game. I think he's due that honor. I think and he may do that. If there's one player who could use a couple days of rest, it's him, and potentially Mookie as well, and even Ohtani. Like, I guess we can step into the Ohtani discussion now.
Who are your picks?
He's still kind of on pace to hit a bazillion home runs. This base stealing has lessened, which isn't terribly surprising given he did injure himself sliding last year. He's being a lot more cautious about it, and he's already proven to people what he can do. He, as far as like hitting and the only 50-50 season in Major League Baseball, he's proved it, right? So I think, I don't want to say like the base running has suffered. I would say it's just more cautious. He's still legging out triples. He's still, going for it and running hard. But I think, he is aware that he is a two-way player. The game after his first outing, he did strike out 4 times. So I won't say that like his hitting's going to suffer because he's a pitcher.
Mhm.
I'm going to say that he is doing his rehab on the major league stage.
Yeah.
And he really doesn't have the option of going to AAA or even like a couple games in Rancho, which, even Kershaw did it, Kelly did it. Like Rancho Cucamongas are low A, and it's like an hour and a half away with good traffic. So like you'll see people rehab out there. The Dodgers aren't going to send their all-star gold or a DH to AAA to rehab pitching. So he's doing his rehabbing on the major league stage, and that is not easy to do. I think both times he started a game and, he's our leadoff hitter. He doesn't even go in the dugout. He just stands on the warning track and puts his gear on. I'm encouraged, and he's also hitting a little better again. He's also a new dad. Like,
Yeah.
So there's a lot of things going on with him, and he's still putting together an all-star season. I can't remember quite how many home runs, but it's, high 20s, and it's just, I'm not worried about him. Will he have another 50-50 season? No, probably not, but he's still going to be a really, really good baseball player. And, he's always a contender for MVP. So I will say, like, I feel like Ohtani, I kind of want to tell this story. So I was actually at the stadium 2 off seasons ago when we found out that Ohtani had signed with the Dodgers. And I'm sure people remember the whole plane to Toronto debacle
Oh yeah.
that was happening. So I'm at top deck, and I honestly, like, Hollywood couldn't have scripted this better. I've got 3 groups with me, and on this side, or I guess it was this side, was a family from Toronto. Like, they're from Canada.
Oh no.
Kind of more baseball fans, but Blue Jays fans.
Yeah.
In front of me was like this family, like tip to toe, grandma to baby in Dodger blue. Like everyone's wearing a jersey, everyone's got a hat. The kid had on I think he had on like Dodger sunglasses, even, like just diehard Dodger fans. And then like the third group were these 2 couples from, I want to say, the Netherlands or something like that, who are just there to like do something very LA, right? Didn't really know much about baseball at all. So I'm giving my top spiel, third oldest stadium, 56,000, sort of thing. And my lead, Will, comes over and he just goes, "We got him. We got Ohtani." And I squeal, I'm sure. I don't 100% remember, but I just remember like absolute devastation, absolute elation, confusion. Like it was just one of those moments where like you saw the highest highs and the lowest lows, and then people had no idea what was going on.
Who
So
was Ohtani?
yeah, it was Ohtani, and I'm sure I brought it up several times during the tour of that's where Ohtani's gonna hit, but that was a real surreal moment. And later on that day, so this is a weekend. We had a clubhouse tour, and part of our clubhouse tour at the time went through our media room, and we had like game used. I think I remember it was a Mike Piazza gear. We had a Mike Piazza helmet and stuff like that, and people would come through and take photos with the gear. But we couldn't leave the room open, and we couldn't leave the stuff by itself. So I was just sitting there in the media room, and it is dead silent. There's no one there. Anyone who was, it's off season, and I was just sitting there. I was like contemplating how insane the next couple of years were going to be, and I was right. It was nuts. There was always, it's still the Dodgers. We still had Freddie and Mookie and all those superstars, but Ohtani's just added another level of excitement, insanity. I will say this though, last year, Shohei Ohtani had 2 bobblehead nights, right?
Mm-hmm.
And everyone saw in the media how nuts it was and all this stuff. Kiké Hernández, his bobblehead outsold both nights. So Don't underestimate how much LA adores Kiké Hernández, and especially recently with him being the only player to kind of talk about the situation that's been happening in LA.
We don't have to bring up that situation.
Yeah, no, well, it's okay. I will say I'm very proud of Kiké, and we'll leave it at that.
Kiké is a good dude. That reminds me, did you see the lines for the Paul Skeens bobblehead?
I did not. No, I'm sure it was insane though.
I mean, miles wrapped around PNC for miles. That just Skeens gives me, obviously he's not there is not another Shohei, but if somebody were to get amped up about a pitcher like Shohei, it would be Skeens, and his bobblehead line, I mean, just miles and miles around PNC to get in to get it.
Yeah. I actually talk about Paul Skeens on the tour some days because we talk about Fernando Valenzuela. Unfortunately lost him before the World Series last year, but he had probably one of the best rookie pitching seasons of anyone. He wins Rookie of the Year. He wins the Cy Young his rookie year. And I know there was a lot of talk that Paul Skeens might. So far, Fernando's the only player to do it. I think there was talk about maybe Paul Skeens doing that. It didn't happen, but I think he's made the best case in a long, long time for a player to do that. But I'll tell you one thing: Paul Skeens would not have won that Fernando did. Fernando also won a Silver Slugger that year. I mean, just a phenomenal. We miss him. One of the coolest things about Fernando was how unassuming he was. I literally almost walked into him like backwards one day when I was giving a tour because he's so quiet and he just kind of slips by. And he would be on that 5th level. So like our press box is on level 5. He would be like sitting in a chair eating his lunch, like a sandwich or something out of a little lunchbox. And the whole tour would pass by and you'd have an entire family in Valenzuela jerseys and just right by him. But then when he turned it on, he was electric. He was absolutely electric. And just, I miss him quite a bit just for who he was as a person and for who he meant to the fan base. And we would have much rather had him with us, but the fact that we celebrated our World Series on his birthday meant a lot to a lot of people. So
gosh, I didn't even think about that. Yeah, you did.
Yeah. So yeah, we miss him, and we've got a new broadcasting Luis, and I'm blanking on his last name. I'm so sorry. I haven't actually met him yet, so it's easier for me to remember faces when I meet him. But our Spanish language broadcast is second to none. We were one of the first teams to start broadcasting in Spanish. That happened back in Brooklyn, and having Jaime Herrín for 64 seasons is just unheard of. And now Rick Monday is actually our longest tenured broadcaster current. And he's delightful. He's on our radio broadcast. He is sassy. I love it when him and Steven Nelson in particular get together. Oh, they're so sassy. It's an absolute delight. And Steven Nelson's great. He likes to post, he'll do little GoPro videos. And he's pacing. He's up. He's down. And Rick Monday is just like, even during the World Series, it's just like reaching back for his copy from his producer. It's phenomenal. Rick Monday has forgotten more about baseball than I think either one of us will ever know. It's just a phenomenal. We're very, very lucky with our broadcast team. We've been blessed with a lot of good ones. Of course, Oral and Joe are great. I'm a radio girly myself, so I don't listen to them as often, but Tim Nevertte's great. We miss Charlie. I don't know if Charlie will be back. He's had some health issues, but he's fantastic. Some folks I like less, but for the most part, we've had just really, really phenomenal broadcasters.
Yeah, you guys have kind of had like the Hall of Fame of broadcasters throughout the time.
Vin Scully is, and I always say on the tour, it's like Vin Scully is, everybody's fighting for second place, and if you ask, they'll say that, like, hands down, he's the best. And that's not, me as a Dodger fan. That's just me as a sports fan. He was the greatest to ever do it. So
yeah, he's there's never going to be a replacement for Vin. Well,
67 years from Vin. 67 years.
Yeah, I know.
I would say just to put their like Jaime, so 64 from Jaime, 67 from Vin. Jaime's son broadcast with him for 30 years, which in itself is a respectable career, right?
Yeah.
He retired before his dad.
Crazy to think about. All right, well, we'll take a quick break and then we will kind of break down what this series might look like. This is my little vamping time. Okay, let's get back into the series. So, as we previously stated, neither one of us ever know who's going to be pitching any given day.
We're gonna have a bullpen game. That's one thing I can say.
Oh yeah. We'll see both teams with bullpen games, I imagine. But what can we kind of expect to see from Dodgers pitching for this series?
This isn't a week, right? It'll be a week. So one thing you might see, and it depends on his performance on the road, you might see Kershaw's 3,000th strikeout.
Oh, wow.
He is 8 away.
Okay.
I don't know that he will get 8 in one game. He is entirely capable of it. But if he, 6, even if he gets 7, it's likely that you might see, if it lines up, Kershaw's 3,000th pitch. Boy, there's not really know what to say about it. He's one of the all-time greats, first ballot Hall of Famer, I mean. And he'll be good. As far as pitching, you might see Yamamoto. He hasn't been quite as lights out. I know he was a real contender for a Cy Young in the beginning, but I mean, I feel like publishing those lists even before July is kind of filling air, right?
Yeah.
But he's entirely capable of drilling down. He's a Yankee killer. Oh my goodness. One of my favorite, I don't love the Apple broadcasts, but I do have to thank them for an absolute gem of a shot from last season when Juan Soto was still a Yankee. Sorry, any Yankees fans that might be watching for that hurtful statement. He was injured for the series and he was not going to hit. Like he was on the IL. But at one point he like takes his sweats off and he's like on the top step as if he's going to like trying to intimidate and like he's doing the stare and everything. It's great gamesmanship. Like I don't blame him at all. He's trying to do what he can from the bench, right? And there's just this gorgeous shot of him like mean mugging Yamamoto and they rock to Yamamoto. He's just like totally ignoring him, not even conscious of it. Visibly, who knows what was going on, mentally, but like, so I do have to thank them for that. But Yamamoto's great. He is, when he is on, he's fantastic. He is not a tall dude. All of that power is just mechanics and strength. One of my favorite things to watch him do in the stadium is, the long toss. He'll start, when he gets longer and longer and longer, and he throws almost completely diagonal. He gets very close. And most times than not, it takes 2 people to get the baseball back to him. And he'll still, even then, because you're going for power when you're long tossing, not necessarily accuracy, he'll still overthrow. Like the amount of power this kid has, he's a man, but he's younger than me. But the amount of power he can generate flat-footed is just phenomenal. So, whether he's, right or not, you're going to see something crazy cool out of him. If you see Dustin May, I will say he's not the same pitcher as he's been before his surgeries, I should say. Yeah. I don't think any pitcher ever is, so that's not a mark against him. We're starting to see some of that crazy movement. Like we're probably not gonna see the 21 inches of run you would see in the past. But you're still gonna see some hard throwing. You're gonna see some lights out. You're gonna see some jumping and excitement. He pitches with passion. That red hair flies. Things to see him like bounce over the third baseline, and The control isn't what it was, but I mean, control was a little bit, when your pitches are that nasty, is it control or is it luck at some point,
Right.
But I think he's got an over 4 ERA, but you're still going to see some heat, some nasty. You'll probably see Casparius and Robleski, especially if a pitch Ohtani's. If you see Ohtani, he will not be going. He might go 2 or 3. He will not be looking for a quality start. Again, he is rehabbing at the major league level. You'll probably see Casparius, potentially Robleski. You might see Sheehan. He's been optioned, I think, but you might not. And yeah, again, you might see Kershaw, but I would possibly 2 bullpen games, even if we have a starter, they kind of devolve into bullpen games. But
Yeah.
You'll see Vesia. You'll see one of the great things about Robleski is for a while we had Banda and Vesia as lefties, and that's it. And we've kind of added on Dreyer, I believe, is a lefty, and now Robleski. So yeah, you'll see options.
It reminds me. So my cousin, she's out in Colorado, and she was at the game last night against the Dodgers, and she said, it's a group chat. It's all women. It's like my cousin, myself, her sister, and her mother. So like it's just ladies only. And she's like, girls, I get to see Ohtani tonight. And I was like, I sat out and watched him in the pouring down rain on a cold Chicago night while he was still on the Angels. That's how important it was to me. And she sent a picture, of him at bat. And she was like, I was going to send a picture and say Ohtani's were as fierce as the Rockies, apparently. But then his hit was literally a home run. Just had to add that little antidote. So, if we do get to see him.
I'm never going to count him out.
No. No, never.
He's I will tell this story about from last season, the 40-40 game. I had a motorbike accident, so I had my shoulder was banged up. I was in a sling. I had been working that day, so I'd been at the stadium since about 9:30. My shoulder was hurting. Yes, he had stolen his 40th base, but I was just tired, and I was ready to go. I stood up probably around about the 7th inning, or it was right after he'd stolen his 40th base, because I thought there's no way he does both in the same game, right? There's no way. That's too Hollywood, right? That's not how baseball works. That's not the narrative that the baseball gods will allow to happen. So anyway, I stand up and I notice that my shoe's untied. And this is the dumbest thing. I bring my shoe up on the seat in front of me to try and tie it. Because again, my arm's in a sling. This is so dumb. I ripped the crotch of my pants. And I sit down and I think, okay, all right, it's not that bad. I have a sweater with me. I just need to figure out how I'm going to tie this around my waist without making my arm feel like it's on fire. So I'm kind of sitting there contemplating how I do this, how I get this around me while my shoulder's in the sling. And I hear my name being called, and I look up and he's like, hey, aren't you DJ's cousin? And I look up and it's a family friend I haven't seen in since before COVID. And he's like, hey, how are you doing? Hey, I've got to do some stuff, but why don't you stay? I want to talk to you after the game. Is that okay? And I was like, absolutely. So I guess I'm staying now. And that's why I stood. That's why I stayed. Otherwise I would have missed it. And he ended up coming back right before, Ohtani's at bat. And we were literally talking to each other. It's bases loaded. And we're looking at each other like, there's no way, right? This is too Hollywood. This is too perfect. There's no way this is going to happen. And of course he does. He grand slams his 40th home run in his 40-40 game. And, Ramon just happens to be filming, and I black out pretty much. I'm just screaming, losing my mind. The whole stadium's losing our mind, because not only is it a walk-off grand slam, it's, it's that. So, he has to go do something. He leaves. I'm gathering my stuff. I remember there's a giant hole in my pants. And I just kind of sitting there contemplating, like, this guy is unbelievable. Like, it is literally a reflective moment of what can't he do. And then I get a text from my cousin in Tennessee. Hey, was that you in Ramon's video? That sounded like you. And I was like, it's just such a small world. It's such a small baseball world, and Ohtani is the superstar of it. And there's moment, and I love, there's moments like that, and part of what I love about being a tour guide is hearing that story or the stories like that from so many people, because a lot of people look at the stats, they look at what's going on, they look at what's, but they forget, I think, like, what it means to people individually. And those big moments become like milestones in people's lives in a way. And I feel like as a tour guide, sometimes we get told more stories than we tell, and I love those days where someone from Brooklyn is talking about seeing Jackie in person, or someone's been season ticket holders since the stadium opened, and those 40-40 moments that are so amazing to witness become, oh, I took, that was my first date with my girlfriend, or you know I don't know. It's such bigger than baseball. A lot of people have that phrase, and it's true. Like, those moments do get so big, and they're moments of connection, with literally someone I hadn't seen in 5-6 years. And I probably will be another 5-6 years before I see them again. So having him around is really special, and it's just a kind of daily reminder of how badly the Angels fumbled that bad.
No, that's fair. That's fair.
Sorry, Angel fans, but wow.
I think they all know.
Yeah. We're not far away. You can still come see it. We still have people show up in Ohtani red, and the vast number of we still have, you still see Turner, you still see Kershaw, you still see, I saw Corey Seager the other day, but the most jerseys you see are Ohtani, and you'll see the World Baseball Classic jerseys, you'll see a couple Angels jerseys. But yeah, it's really, it's been nuts. It's been absolutely insane.
Bigger than the Beatles at this point, man.
I mean, yeah, insane.
So, and this answer might even just probably be Ohtani. Wouldn't be surprised. Who is the biggest threat to the White Sox team right now that isn't the White Sox themselves, to be completely honest?
I'm gonna give you the less obvious answer.
Okay.
Andy Pages has been on a tear. He's actually ranking in All-Star votes right now.
Oh, wow.
In his second season. He absolutely terrorized the Padres, which, we always love that from a Dodger player. He's really, so I want to bring this back a little bit to Conforto. Andy Pages is someone that Dave gave a long runway to, and it's absolutely paying off. Again, Dave has that luxury of being able to give certain players runways. It is 100% paid off with Pages, at least right now. Players get hot and cold and stuff like that, but he is on an absolute tear right now. So, he plays outfield for us, usually center field, but he'll play, left, right as needed. And his fielding has gotten better. He'll still, maybe he could have made that, maybe not, sort of thing. But he's had some really flashy plays. He's, gunned down people at the plate, or gotten really, really close to gunning down people in the plate from the outfield. His transfer time is ridiculous. And he's got a cannon, and he's hitting. He's really starting to mash. And so I think that's kind of like the sneaky threat. Muncie's hitting again. Again, his glasses are there. Ohtani, again, I think he's starting to warm up again, but the transition to pitching has, when I say slow, I mean like gone from 90 to 80 sort of thing. So I honestly don't know. He may be up in full speed by the time the White Sox come around. He's always a threat no matter what. I hope Mookie and Freddie kind of get some reset, but honestly, it's been our 6, 7, 8 hitters that have been, doing well. And I mean, Will Smith is he's the best catcher in baseball. He had a pinch hit home run the other day that I was in the pavilions for. It was just, it seemed inevitable. He's just a phenomenal catcher. Dalton Rushins came up and did. We recently DFA'd longtime, second longest tenured Dodger. I think it was Austin Barnes, I believe. Long time catcher. Dalton Rushing came up and replaced him. He's been doing well, but Will Smith is just a phenom right now.
Yeah.
Ha-Seong Kim has had some really great situational moments for us. And I feel like I'm piling on here, but like that's just kind of the lineup we have. Tommy Edman's been making some pretty stellar. He's had a couple, flubs, but he's just a vacuum at second base sometimes. And, that's middle infield's always difficult. You're always going to have a dribbler get past you no matter where you're positioned from time to time. But he's had some just absolute sand trap catches that have been really great. So yeah, I mean, and then I didn't mention multi all-star home run derby to Oscar Hernandez, who is also getting warm. So and not to this isn't making light, but in the same way as the White Sox, sometimes the Dodgers can get in their own way. And sometimes it's against the teams where they feel like they can take a step back. They can chill out a little bit. I love Kiké, but I hope you don't see him pitch because, oh my goodness, just in the game. I love Kiké. I think his silly little hat is delightful. He's fun, but especially like when you work at the stadium and you have to be back in 12 hours. And I don't have to stay for the games. In fact, I am one of the people who maybe leave early. But again, when you have to be back in the stadium in less than 12 hours, I'm gonna take the out. But I definitely, some of the ushers are just like, nah, Kiké. That being said, he brings a lot of joy to the fan base. So I'm not gonna lodge a complaint too hard. But sometimes we just want the games to just let him die. It's okay. Let the game be over. But yeah, Kiké, he's a fan favorite.
Oh yeah.
For many valid and excellent reasons.
Yeah. So we mentioned bullpen games are going to be likely, maybe multiple bullpen games. We'll see. But what are the keys for the Dodgers to just kind of stay in this series and take it from the White Sox?
I would love a couple more qualifying starts. I would love to see. I forgot to look, but I think Kershaw's last inning he went 7.
Okay.
And not many of our Dodgers pitchers have gone 7, let alone someone coming back from an injury. If he goes, I'd love to see him go 7. I'd love to see that 3,000. But I think it's going to be our pitching. Our bats have the delightful thing about our bats is they're really good at picking each other up. We've had a lot of come from behind wins. I don't know where we rank as far as most come from behind wins, but it feels like we're probably up there. I think it's getting close to 30. I don't think it's quite that yet, but emotionally it feels that way. Maybe that's I'm exaggerating that, but I mean, we had a come from behind win last night, so it feels like every night, someone different in the lineup is picking him up, whether it's Pajes or Conforto last night, confoundingly Conforto. Who again, he shows enough brilliance every now and then to understand that you could really do this. I believe in you, but it doesn't always work out the way he probably wants it. But I think it's going to be pitching, and that's kind of been across the board. Most of our pitchers have around a 3 to 4 ERA, barring Yamamoto. He has like a 2.76, I think, right now. But that's going to be it. If you can get your bats going, we have nights. I mean, everyone has nights when the bats go quiet, and the Dodgers are not accepted from that. What it feels like, what the key is stopping an inevitable inning. And that's what it feels like that's what the Dodgers do. Round about the 4th, 5th, or 6th, the bats get a bee in their bonnet and they just mash 5, 6 runs.
Right.
And, it doesn't always mean we win the game, but it's that crushing, inevitable, indomitable feeling that the Dodgers have gotten really, really good at lately, because hitting is contagious. So if you get a couple guys on base and a couple runs scored, do something. Whether it's slow the game down. One of the things I'm really surprised that I saw with the Padres and a little bit with the Giants is not utilizing mound visits as much as I thought to try and slow the game down, especially with the pitch clock. I mean, they still did it from time to time, but I felt like there were definitely moments during one of those inevitable innings where, a mound visit, even if it's just the catcher or, having the pitching coach come out and take a moment, giving them a breath. I also understand not wanting to squander those, but if you look at the scouting report on the Dodgers, when you get 2 runs in and you've got 3 on, boy, those 3 are probably going to, it feels like those 3 are going to score, So I think, slow the Dodgers bats down, break up their rhythm, and, nibble at the outside and hope the umpire's on his game. They have been quite a bit this season, but, every now and then there's a frustrating night that frustrates both teams. But on the whole, they're never as bad as the guy in reserve who's absolutely sure that was a strike. They're never as bad as the fans think.
No, yeah. So with that kind of ties into the last question I want to ask about this series with your fears heading into it, because again, it's the White Sox, but you said it before, sometimes they can get in their own heads and think, oh, we're playing a team that lost over 121 games last year. Who cares? Yeah. So with that, what are you kind of afraid of that you might end up seeing with the Dodgers?
I mean, I'm always afraid of injury. It doesn't matter how good your pitching is. There's going to be a bad pitch in there every now and then. And, I was at the game where Mookie got hit last year and I was in Lowe's. You could hear it. It was not a pleasant, with Freddie being, doing as much rehabbing as he is every single day. You always worry about that ankle. That's kind of the other things I worry about. I do, this team is such a team, and that they win together, they lose together. It is a live-die situation sometimes, and especially since, and again, this is not a dig at you guys, but they might not bring their A game, and that might, that can kind of travel through a clubhouse. And honestly, dropping these games against, a non-divisional, non-league opponent is not the absolute worst. We have about a 4-game buffer right now over the Giants. And if we drop 1 or 2 to you, honestly, that might make them more mad, come out swinging, that sort of thing. But, no one's going to win 162. Like, no one can.
Yeah.
And so they're always going to try hard. Max Muncy was on a podcast a couple of years ago, and I think he put it really, really well. He was like, some days you're just not on it.
Mm-hmm.
And you want to say that you go up and give 100% every time. That's just not going to happen. And if they can ease off on the gas a little during these games, I think they might do it. And it also might be, a conscious decision to do that. I'm not going to say they're going to handy games, because they hate to lose. They hate to lose. I think they hate to lose more than they like winning, and that's the real kicker, right? You don't want to lose. But I don't know. I don't know. I'm also never going to accuse them of taking it easy, because they also can just, they didn't take it easy against the Rockies last night, who have, a worse record. So I don't know. It's baseball's going to baseball. And I think no matter what your record is, you're still a team full of professional baseball players who have dedicated their life to being good at baseball. And you never know. You never know. But I think injury is probably the thing, because they might not be, the same amount of focus as against maybe the Padres or the Giants. That might be when, someone throws off or puts a foot down wrong or slides wrong or, something like that. That's always my fear, just because Muncy was hit last year. Mookie was out for a long time last year. Shohei didn't have, he had a fine postseason, but he wasn't Shohei stellar in the postseason because he was injured.
Yeah.
And especially now that he's pitching, you worry about, you don't have to have another triple guy, so
and it takes time for him to get back in that groove.
Yeah, but Shohei's gonna do what he's gonna do. So I think that's always kind of the low key fear of any professional athlete is injury. And I still think they're definitely not gonna roll over, but I don't know that they will pull out all the stops, or maybe they will. Who knows? Maybe Mookie will get hot and just start, hitting nukes. I would love that. I apologize in advance if that happens, but I will take it.
We're used to it. It's
yeah. I know this is more about the Dodgers, but I do have a question for you, and this is what I ask every White Sox fan that I come across, and it is, and I mean this in a very sincere, not teasing way. What is it that keeps you a fan, in your opinion?
Yeah, I think, and it's kind of weird because there are so many new players. We've got a lot of young guys.
Yeah.
Like normally I would say like, oh, it's a player that's kept me along, and it's just my love of baseball and my love of this player. But I have admittedly been more of a, like, I'm going to follow players. I'm a big Andrew McCutchen fan. I'm going to follow Andrew McCutchen wherever he goes. So it's not even so much that anymore. I think it's just, and maybe this is a silly half joking answer. Maybe I've just trauma bonded so much with this team that it's kept me there. But I will also say, like, the community helps. Back before Twitter was like a cesspool, just that community, especially after kind of like 2020. I think that season where you're not at the games, you're online, you're live tweeting through these games, you're talking to all of these people that you might not have known before, or maybe you have, but like it kind of sealed it for me. Like, even if they were going to be bad, I had this community of other people that I could like go through the highest of highs and the lowest of lows with this team with. So I think just the community in general has kept me there. There are a lot of really good eggs. We're going to completely ignore the bad egg from last night's game.
Yeah.
Who, made a player cry. Like, if I know you, I hate you. Don't ever, like, I'll block you if I figure out who you are, kind of thing.
Well, a 22-year-old punk who is now banned.
Yeah.
I think the announcement was he is banned. So
yeah, that did come out that he's banned, and I'm sure I do not know a 22-year-old. I am way too old for that. But it's a very good community, and we watched this team go from like playoff contenders to breaking records for losing games, and you're just kind of still stuck with them because at the end of the day you have really good memories and you have a lot of good friends that you've made from this. And it's cheesy, and I know it's like, oh, what if it was really just the friends we've made along the way? I think it's the friends that we've made along the way has kept me from still loving this team and watching them despite them. I will turn on the game and watch them get blown out 10-0. And I'm like, you know what? That's okay. I still love you, Chase. You're my MVP right now. Like, I love it. So
I actually get, this is going to sound a little far-fetched, but I love hearing that because, again, for a different reason, there were not a lot. Most Dodger fans appreciate, the regular season, but we had so many disappointments in a row in the offseason, and people who would just, it doesn't mean anything if you don't win the World Series. Well, that's stupid because the vast majority of teams do not win the World Series. Only one can do it. And, and I get that our regular season experiences are different, but like the postseason, like having disappointment after disappointment after disappointment, and people just be like, oh, I can't take this anymore. I'm not a fan anymore. I can't take this anymore. And it's like, that's not what we're here for. It is for the regular season. It doesn't take away the triumphs and the joys. And so like, I'm so I ask almost every White Sox fan I come across. I haven't met many new Rockies fans this season yet.
Yeah.
But like, I think that's the part of it, is like, you can't, baseball is a game of failure.
Mm-hmm.
That's been said over and over and over again, and sometimes the failures are historic.
Yeah.
But I always like to point out that the Dodgers haven't always been so hot. Some of those 90s teams weren't so great. Our 1937 team, it's easy to remember, as a team we only hit 37 home runs, like the entire team. And I know that's not in my living memory, but like, that's just how it goes. Like, it ebbs and flows, it waxes and wanes. And I moved out. I grew up a Braves and Cubs fan because of my dad and my grandmother. But when I moved out to LA after 2007, that's when I was like, oh, the Dodgers, they weren't that good then.
Yeah. Yeah.
I really started really paying attention kind of, around 2010, 2011. Vin Scully won me over thoroughly. He was still with the team then. And so like, there is such a joy in like, being that fan that stuck around and seeing those fortunes turn. And I think that's inevitable with the White Sox. The other thing I like to remind people is like, ownership will change.
Yeah.
It's inevitable. Either they'll, and I mean this very respectfully, Peter Seidler passed away. Ownership had to change, and they're having some issues. That was kind of in a bad way. You guys maybe have a different situation, and it may be sold. It may be, like these teams, you guys started off, hold on, Sioux City Cornhuskers, right? The 1894. Yeah. The Dodgers joined the National League in 1890. That's generations ago. So like, things change, tides turn, and I'm sitting on the top of the mountain right now. Our places can absolutely be reversed and probably will in a few years. That's just how it is. So I'm really glad to hear that like the community is sustaining, and that the like finding joy in those moments, because I as a baseball historian, you look back and there's gonna be more valleys than peaks, because the only one person wins the World Series. Only one team, I should say, wins the World Series. But you also can have an AL and an NL team. So if you want to follow the Dodgers, come join us.
Well, the thing is, it's funny because I mentioned like the highs and the lows of being a fan. A bunch of fans also like went together, raised money to put up banners that said like "Sell the Team Jerry," to have them placed in like different spots on the south side of Chicago.
Yeah.
So like, we're all just kind of in this together, whether we want to be here or not. And again, I just turned 38. The last time the White Sox won a World Series, I was a freshman in college.
2005, I think.
Yeah. 2005. I was a freshman in college.
Yeah.
Did I still spend my wedding night at a White Sox game at Wright Field? Yes, I did. I did that.
Yeah.
Did they lose? Yeah, they did. It was a crosstown cup even, so it was like even more brutal looking back on it. But like, I'm still going to show up to these games. And I sat and watched Ohtani on the Angels in the pouring down rain and the freezing cold, but like, I did it. I still went and I supported my team, and you go through it, and it's got to come out better, even though like we're kind of like ticking time clock of, okay, Jerry, when are you gonna fall asleep?
When will things be over one way?
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, that's I guess the advice of someone who looks back on the ages is the pendulum always swings. Always. Unless and even like a lot of Dodger fans give the Padres a crap. You've never won a World Series. Well, they haven't been around as long, and the pendulum always swings. It may not swing soon, but it always swings. So
yeah. That's why I try not to just talk shit, because it always ends up in my face. It'll go like the absolute opposite way of how I needed it to go. So
Yeah.
I just have to watch my mouth and not say mean things, because again, it could just fall right back onto my face, and it normally does, at least with sports.
Yep.
So before we wrap this up, this is just where I like to get what you're seeing along Major League Baseball that isn't, White Sox and Dodgers, your hot takes or whatever else you've got. What are you thinking about?
I mean, I will admit to being very Dodger focused because it is my job. But I've been watching Soto a little bit with the Mets. That's been kind of an interesting settling in. We had him in our division for a while when he was with the Padres. And I want to know, like, I want to read his biography when all of this is said and done. I want to know what he thinks of a lot of this stuff, because everyone has an opinion on him, and most of them can't be right. So not really having an opinion myself so much as like being kind of fascinated by, is he fitting in? Is he not? Is he, all this stuff, and just kind of watching him still, perform. He's still a good baseball player, but not being necessarily that breakout star. And like, where did the shuffle go? I'm a little sad about that. Like, it drove me crazy. Don't get me wrong. It drove me crazy when he did it I was like, but that's fun, right? Like, that's fun. I also remember the World Series, when the Dodgers had won, and he would kind of stood there for a little while at the rail and looking, and all of these people who were convinced that Soto was going to be a Dodger. And I was like, that is not a man who wants to join the monster. He wants to slay the monster.
Yeah, exactly.
And so I am looking forward to, closer towards the end, if it does come down to Mets Dodgers again, I would not be disappointed. I think that's going to be an interesting thing. Pete Alonso's, if Freddie Freeman doesn't be the NL All-Star, either somehow not getting votes, he'll win the vote. But if he steps back, it will be Pete Alonso. Polar Pete, I feel like he's been around forever and he's still mashing, and that's fantastic.
He's still so good.
The Angels are quietly having a pretty good year. Love that for them. I was watching them a little more when Chris Taylor went to them. I will miss Chris Taylor till the day I die in Dodger blue, but I absolutely love that the surfer dude just went down the street so that he could keep his surf spots, But I was watching they're having a better season than I think people thought Ohtani-less season would be. Last year wasn't great, but I'm trying to think. Watching the Yankees are still pretty great. That was a fantastic series. We came out on top of it, but that I wasn't at the blowout game. I actually was believe it or not, I was down in Anaheim at the Savannah Bananas. I pulled it up. I think I made a gulping laugh noise. That being said, they're still a monster lineup. Judges. Speaking of games I was at the game where he ran through the Dodger Stadium wall. So the wall is like this, and there's a gate here. He went through this part. He didn't go through the gate. He went through the wall. You could hear that it reverberated through the stadium too. That dude is just a monster, and in more ways than one. I'm glad to see Cody doing well. I do miss Cody Bellinger. He would, kind of flailed a little bit on the Sox or on the Cubs. I think he's weirdly enough doing well with the structure of the Yankees, and he's starting to heat up again. Love to see that. I follow Justin Turner quite a bit. He's a Cub now. Not that there was ever any doubt, but my God, I've never seen a child that was more Justin Turner's child. I was like, I'm so sorry, Courtney. You just
she was just there.
Yeah, that's so cute. Following former players, Corey Seager and down in the Rangers, and not being terribly surprised when he's on and off the injured list. Although I haven't really followed him as much this year. But yeah, it's been. That's kind of how I keep up with the rest of the league, is watching my former favorite Dodger fan. Unfortunately, Kiké came back to us, but. Yeah, it's been interesting, and I've been seeing a lot of baseball at the stadium. That being said, the fact that we just now played the Padres in June, it was June before we played the Padres.
Yeah,
I think that was a big old mistake.
Mm-hmm.
One, because it led an entire season of chasing Brew. I mean, those games are never going to be uncontentious anyway. Like, there was always going to be something between those teams, especially the way we left it in the playoffs last year. But I think they could have maybe had a little bit of a pressure release valve around April, and we wouldn't have seen the anger that we saw.
The brawls.
All the hit by pitches and that Ohtani plunk. Oh my goodness. I've never seen Dave Roberts quite that hot, though. I will say. I will say, when I think it was the second time Ohtani got hit, Kershaw was ready to punch somebody. He had a leg over the rail. He was ready to go. And as Kershaw goes, Muncy will go, and that's the domino. And of course, Ohtani waved them off. But yeah. So it's been interesting. I get why we're playing every team now at least once a season. Ohtani, I think, is part of that. Ohtani's 50-50 game happened in Miami. And as soon as that happened, I was like, oh, we're never going back to the old schedule ever. Because
when you've got superstars like him.
Yeah. And he's the Rockies stadium last night was mostly Dodger blue, and that was before Ohtani. There's a lot of California transplants in Denver, but
True.
Last night was very, very Dodger blue. So
and you don't have a lot of team. I mean, you've got the Rockies, but otherwise in that area you don't have a lot of teams. So yeah, if you don't want to, and I don't blame you if you don't want to cheer for the Rockies.
Yeah,
you gotta find a team.
I have a friend who lives in Denver, and she goes to a couple games, and it's a lot of visitors or people who live there but still wear the visitors dugout. I was there. Golly, Jock Peterson was playing first for us. That was the last time I was at Coors Field, and Tyler White came in, and that was before even the Astros scandal broke. So that was a hot minute ago.
Yeah.
But even then, it was a lot of Dodger blue. It was a lot of Dodger blue, myself included. Yeah. But yeah, I don't know. I mean, we kind of joke that the Rockies are a real estate company that happens to own a baseball team. It's kind of a valid criticism.
Yeah, you're not really that far off on that.
But I just think there's a lot of good baseball. I think there's a lot of close races. I'm fascinated by what the Tigers did. Boy, do I miss Jack Flaherty, but also I think he really just is comfortable there. Jack would be stellar for us one outing and then just collapse for us the next. I don't know that this is like the team's fault or his fault, or it seemed like he was like intermittently comfortable and not comfortable. That also might not be true, but just performance-based wise, it seemed like that. He is so at home in Detroit and just absolutely mowing him down. And that whole pitching staff is just scary. It is weird. I thought it was weird that we opened our season against the Tigers, and I believe we won the series. And I was kind of like, the Tigers, I don't know about that. And then just they've been dominant the whole time. So maybe we didn't see that in our series just because it's the beginning of the year and everyone's still knocking the rust off. No matter how many spring training games you have, you're still working out in the first couple series. But it's been really fun seeing Jack do well, and I like Jack quite a bit when he was here. But he had some consistency issues that he is absolutely not having as much nearly in Detroit. So it's good to see him doing well. So yeah, baseball's fun. It's really good this year. The All-Star game is going to be interesting. As per usual, I don't know if Teo will go and hit home runs for us. We're so proud of Teo. He's our first home run derby winner ever, first ever, which is kind of wild to think. Although they haven't been doing the home run derby all that long, but still, for all the mashers that we've had, he's the first one to win it. Yay, baseball.
Yeah, seriously. Well, that's what I've got for you. Thank you so
Yeah.
much. This has been a blast to just sit down and talk to you. Will you please just let people know where they can find you?
Yeah, I am mostly on Blue Sky, and it is SZN underscore baseball, I believe. Let me double check that because I'm sorry, totally wrong. Baseball SZN at Blue Sky on there. I'm also on Instagram, and I'm gonna have to look it up. I should have written these down. I'm so unprepared. That is SZN underscore baseball, and I do almost daily pictures around Dodger Stadium, baseball games. I have some Savannah Banana pictures up there. Last summer I worked on the Manzanar Baseball Project up at Manzanar Historic Site. That's up there. We're going to be partnering with them again soon. So if you are interested in that, Japanese baseball, and not a very good time in our history, but for the Manzanar, if you're not familiar, was a Japanese internment camp during World War II. There has been a real big push to restore the baseball field there. Dan Kwong, who is a descendant of a camp survivor, he put a lot of effort into it. And if you want to see a project that takes a really dark time in our history, brings it forward, but also does it in a very joyous and respectful way. It was an unbelievable day, and we will be having another day soon. I don't have the details yet, but I did just get an email kind of like getting that ball rolling. So I'll post stuff from that. But mostly it's around Dodger Stadium, and any other minor league parks I may mention, and maybe hopefully a different perspective on the stadium than you've seen, because I spend a lot of time there with nobody there, or very few people there. So hopefully I can show you a side of the stadium that you've never seen before.
All right. Well, thank you so much. Obviously, best of luck in this series, and we'll
You too,
chat
yeah.
later. Thank you.